You know, when it comes to monsters and various creature effects in modern cinema, many will turn to the brilliant practical effects of The Thing, or maybe even Rick Baker's incredible werewolf transformation in An American Werewolf in London. And those were certainly landmark moments in creature effects. But as for the actual turning point, I say you can go back even further to a little sci-fi masterpiece called Alien to find the real point of origin. And for the record, I don't particularly like Alien. I fucking love it. I mean, if I could actually marry a film, it would be Alien. And just imagine that honeymoon. Or The Kids to Follow. As for the others in the franchise, Aliens, as we all know, is pretty fucking great. And then there's a drop-off with the rest, with some sporadic moments of greatness and not so great moments. And no, I'm not including the Alien vs. Predator abominations. For this episode, we're just going to pretend they don't even exist. But back to the original and its practical effects. Now, not as bombastically showy as the creature effects in The Thing, what Ridley Scott and his crew managed to do was bring an unheard of level of biological realism to an alien organism in a way that had never really been done before in film. Now, unless you think these dudes in rubber alien masks look especially realistic. So, anywho, here on the 45th anniversary of my favorite film ever, here's the definitive top 10 greatest, most iconic creature effect moments in the Alien franchise. Number 10, Swimming Xenomorphs. Re-examining the forgettable Alien Resurrection from 1997, I thought I remembered the aliens in quarantine scene looking pretty slick. Then, on review, realized they actually looked like oil slicks with teeth. I mean, wet with saliva and mucus is cool, but shit, this just looks like one of those baby oil gangbang videos from the 80s. If ever you wanted to get fisted by a xenomorph, I guess these would be the ones for the job. So, scratch that from the list. So anyway, it finally dawned on me, of course, the swimming Xenos in the submerged lower mess deck scene. Now, this was something that actually pretty cool and something we hadn't actually seen before. Now, it's still pretty early days for CGI in 97, and it actually doesn't look all that bad. I mean, animation is good. I can believe that's how an alien would swim underwater. I mean, what else? The dog paddle, lighting and skin texture, they work well. Though, pardon me for playing art director here, but I think this would have been much more horrific had the water been even cloudier with crap and darker as well, even just areas of total blackness. Now, just imagine getting a brief glimpse of the alien in the gloom or those chrome teeth appearing out of the black. Now, that would have seriously tapped into my Jaws-induced sharkophobia and scared the shit out of me. But the sequence is still pretty cool. As well, love Ron, the missing link Perlman's RPG shot that explodes one of the Xenos. Probably the best part of the sequence is the shallow focus on the hottie as she's being pulled back into the very defocused alien. The lessons of Spielberg's Jaws remain eternally true. That which we can't so much see as imagine will always be more horrific. Good stuff. Number 9, Aborting the Alien. For number 9, I've included the harrowing self-C-section scene from Ridley Scott's Alien 2012 prequel Prometheus, as Noomi Rapace attempts to rid herself of a nasty trilobite growing in her tummy. Now, this one certainly isn't for the squeamish folks. Every time I watch the sequence, I can't help but reminisce about my own misadventures with self-catheterization. Everything is spectacularly brutal here, from the mechanical operating arms with its staple sutures to the undulating rise and fall of Rapace's stomach. Apparently, much of that may not even be in effect. Apparently, Rapace was a fairly decent belly dancer back in the day that could really move that stomach. And once this hideous, wretched creature is removed, check out the very organic, embryonic placenta sac thingy bulging in and out until it ruptures like a popped, festering boil, revealing a pretty nasty-looking trilobite. I guess the early predecessor to the alien FaceHugger. It's all writhing tentacles and squid-shaped bulbous head. The umbilical cord is a really nice touch as well. I love this pale, semi-translucent coloring of its skin, the strands of glutinous liquid, the smeared blood and afterbirth on its body. It all works beautifully in a disgusting kind of way. And boy, oh boy, what a relief for the audience seeing Rapace was able to neutralize and contain this little bastard. Oops. Number 8, showering with the alien. 2017's Alien Covenant surely isn't one of the more loved films in the franchise. Sure, there's lots to choose from as far as creature effects go, including full body shots of the Xenomorph leaping around and doing all sorts of gymnastics. But as I mentioned earlier, sometimes, most of the time, it's better to reveal less. And so it goes with the fantastic shower scene near film's end, where a little hanky-panky in the shower stall turns into the kind of threesome that'll live in your nightmares for years. In keeping with the sexual subtext that pervades much of the first film, I love how the tail is introduced between their legs, phallically moving up to poke its next victim. Definite shades here of Lambert's death in the first film. Does the alien have more in his mind than just murder? Its appearance out of the steamy dark gloom is pretty great. Check out the lighting here. The spec highlights and glints are fantastic. Love the rivulets of water dripping off of it as well. And the Xeno tooth tongue through the back of the dude's head out of his mouth is a really nice twist on the patented kill move. The last vestiges of blood falling from its mouth, again, really nice stuff. Another great example of less being more. Number 7, the BackBurster. Sticking with the much disliked Alien Covenant at number 7, I'm gonna go with what fans have known as the BackBurster scene, which of course is a fun little variation of the infamous ChestBurster scenes. Now this time it isn't the alien Xenomorph or ChestBurster coming out, but a baby Neomorph, or Bloodburster if you will. Now I love the build up to this, with this poor bastard all drained of color and convulsing like someone welded headphones to his ears and forced him to listen to Taylor Swift on endless loop. According to what I believe to be official alien canon, the Bloodburster emerges from its host through an area of least resistance. Now, earlier that meant through the mouth of poor bastard number 1, and here it'll be through the back of poor bastard number 2. I love how the spikes rupture through his flesh, and check out the hideous mottled skin around the spine. Great stuff for a sadist like me as the Bloodburster begins to emerge, gallons of blood pouring out, embryonic sac, and yes folks, for the practical effects purists, this is in fact all CGI. I love the plopping of the sac on the floor. Poor bastard number 2 now flopped over and hanging backwards. Really nice twist on Kane's final death pose from Alien. Now, the movement from beneath the placenta is also pretty disgustingly great as the Bloodburster emerges. Nice lighting, skin texture, subsurface scattering. It's all working really well here. Now, I have to admit, though, as the scene progresses, it becomes less good, maybe even a little comical. I'm weirdly reminded of the killer bunny from Monty Python's Holy Grail, but otherwise a pretty damn good twist on the classic ChestBurster scenes. Number 6, the OG FaceHugger. For number 6, we're gonna go back to where it all started with Scott's masterpiece, Alien, and its introduction of the iconic FaceHugger. Now actually, I'm gonna cheat this one a bit and start with the Egg's first appearance in the Alien derelict spacecraft. Now, God, what a brilliant conception this is. And of course, it's all entirely practical. I love the organic, membraney quality of the Egg's surface, rivulets of liquid just beneath the exterior, And check out the FaceHugger movement inside, just a hint of something in there. Apparently Ridley Scott himself placed his hands inside, then wiggled his fingers about. Now, you don't always have to be super sophisticated to get the effect you want. And when it opens, obviously using sheep's guts and stuff, it's alien, yes, yet feels completely plausible and organic. Then, of course, it springs onto Kane's mask. Now, back in '79, with a limited budget, there probably wasn't a believable way to have the FaceHugger launch itself from the egg, so Scott does a great job of using quick edits and a startling sound effect to carry the shot off, and it works perfectly. Then on board the Nostromo, we get the great reveal when Dallas and Ash remove Kane's helmet, and we come face to face with one of the most iconic creatures in film history. Now again, this thing feels so alien yet rooted in biology. The pale, yellowish, slightly translucent skin, the bony, knuckled fingers, the tightening of its reptilian tail around Kane's throat, suggesting it's not coming off without a fight, and even notice the subtle touch of the inflating sac beneath the fingers to suggest it's feeding oxygen to Kane. Then the attempt to laser out through the finger. I'm not sure how they made this, but just look at the subsurface detail in this thing. And the rupture of yellow acid for blood, just unfucking believably good. Number 5, face to face with an alien. So, some of you may be saying, whoa, what's Uncle Chet been smoking? You actually gonna put a shot from the god-awful David Fincher disowned Alien 3 this high on the list? Look, no doubt 1992's Alien 3 was a serious letdown in the series. I mean, how do you manage to have Fincher as a director and still make a shit Alien film? Well, for starters, you just randomly decide to kill off Newt Hicks, sucking any sense of a happy ending out of the second film. I mean, imagine now watching Aliens and Alien 3 as a double bill. Yes, they survived the Queen! Ah, fuck. And as stated earlier, the marionette alien puppet shot against a blue screen and crudely Compton later, but looks about as jarringly out of place as that string of anal beads in Grandpa's sock drawer. But Alien 3 does indeed prove that even a blind face-hugger finds a nut now and then, with what has become the rather iconic face-to-face scene between Ripley and the alien. Now, it starts with potential love interest Dr. Clemens being unceremoniously killed with a tongue shot through the noggin, and then the Xenomorph comes for our chrome-domed heroine. So we start with a horrendous comp of the puppet alien with green edges and terrible motion blur, blacks that don't match, but we finally arrive at the close face-to-face moment that clearly uses a practical animatronic and looks pretty damn good. Now, as always, I love the dripping saliva. Here it seems to be just the right amount, and a very nice, slow, menacing tongue extraction. The alien mysteriously just checks Ripley out, allowing her to live. Gee, I wonder what it senses in Ripley. She might as well be wearing a baby on board sticker. And the scene has lived on in social media memes everywhere. Now, that's got to count for something, right? Number 4, aliens in the ceiling. So now we're getting into the quality films. Now, James Cameron's Aliens was wise to not attempt to recreate the gothic, slow-burn horror of the first film, and instead turned it into an all-out war action flick. And around the midway point, with Ripley and the Marines waiting for an all-out assault by the Xenos, Hudson's motion detector, looking less high-tech than a Nintendo Game Boy, shows the aliens are breathing right down their necks. Now, without any actual evidence of them actually being anywhere close. So Hicks pops open a ceiling panel, aims a flashlight, and holy fucking shit if we don't see a horde of these man-sized cockroaches coming right for us. Then all hell breaks loose as the ceiling is now raining Xenomorphs in what turns out to be a pretty kick-ass battle sequence. You know, one of the problems with the Alien franchise has been seeing the entire alien in wider shots running and bouncing all over the place, and it just doesn't feel right. But not here. Thankfully, the year was 1986 and CGI wasn't even close to an option. And please don't take that as a knock against CGI, but as we know, nothing is ever going to look more real than reality itself. Now, side note, Alien 3 actually looks like terrible CGI, but it's really just puppets with strings painted out, and God, what an awful experiment that was. Now, even with Resurrection, the CGI Xenos, they look a bit obviously not real. But here, with guys in alien suits, it simply works. Cameron even expands on the abilities of the Xenos by giving them the ability to stick on ceilings. He used stuntmen and even dancers in the suits to give the impression of an alien that is much more agile than the original. Apparently, the suits were painted up with high contrast colors that really worked beautifully when filmed in the dark, smoky interiors of the base. They apparently even used a number of 8-foot Xeno puppets that they could explode acid or pose in theatrical ways. Makes me wonder if there might be a market for Xenomorph dolls. Anyway, the overall effect is just nothing short of brilliant. Number 3, Bret's death. Okay folks, now we get into the championship rounds. At 3, we return to the original with the first introduction of the fully grown Xenomorph. Now, remember, at this stage, both Bret and the audience are expecting something the size of a gerbil. And it has to be said, Ridley Scott does a masterful job of building to the moment, starting with the faint heartbeat sound effect. Then the expression and hiss of Jonesy the cat. Give that fucking cat an Oscar. The defocused glint of a long alien tail lowering behind Bret, the phallic dome-shaped head dripping saliva it raises up, no visible eyes anywhere. I mean, who the fuck comes up with the idea of an eyeless monster? Anyway, the shadow playing across Bret's face as he's immobilized with pure shock and awe, the sound effects of the Xeno, then the payoff shot, cutting to one of the most iconic visuals in the entire series. Just look at those glorious metal teeth, the inky black texture of the head with its muted speck hits, the wetness, the saliva, that evil twisted grin, the steam behind the head. It's just absolute visual perfection. It may have been shot 45 years ago, but there's no aging here. This could easily be in effect in 2024. Then that exploding tooth tongue puncturing Bret's chest, or was it his head, all edited in just a few frames. Not exactly sure just what happened, but you know it was pretty fucking violent. Then, with various quick cuts, all very shadowy and obscured, the Xeno shows its gymnast-like ability, whisking Bret up into the cooling ducts. I can only imagine the shock to an audience back in '79. People were fucking scared out of their minds. And again, folks, remember, the year is 1979 and the budget is a measly $11 million. Adjusted for today, I mean, that's still about the budget of a Sydney Sweeney rom-com. Look at all the work that goes into this thing, the animatronics. That alone has 900 moving parts and apparently used a real human skull under its skin. I mean, I would kill to know the story behind that skull. I mean, what poor bastard donated his body to science, then had his skull swiped from his student med lab, only to be sold for a dime bag of weed to some dude looking to make the ultimate Halloween display, who was the friend of the cousin of a guy working in the film industry, who purchased the skull for a C note, then used it in the facial construction of a Xenomorph. Ought to look down from heaven and realize that would be your legacy. Cool, right? Anyway, just a brilliant first introduction to a fully grown Xenomorph. Number 2, the Queen. One of the issues with James Cameron's Aliens was that because there were so many Xenos and we see lots of them get fried from pulse rifle blasts, it kind of takes away from the lethal mystique of the lone alien from the first film. To quote Ash on How to Kill It,
"You can't. You still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? Perfect organism."
But in Cameron's film, it feels more like a numbers game. There's just too many of them coming at you all at once. So Cameron needed to up the ante and go bigger and more lethal than the original. And he does so with the Queen. And holy shit, does he ever. What an absolutely gargantuan task and effort to design, build, operate, and shoot this thing, all of it in camera, zero CGI or wire removal work, because hey, it was just 1986. Now, this thing had a crane propping it up from behind at all times, 2 stuntmen in the chest operating the arms, legs operated externally by puppeteers, hydraulics in the necks and throughout the head and jaws, cable controls, you fucking name it. Again, all of it in camera, and this time not just a studio lie, all perfectly framed and lit in a way to hide all of the external supports. And what you have is without doubt the second greatest, most iconic creature effect in the entire series. The reveal at the beginning with Ripley and Newt happening upon the egg chamber, the nasty black silhouetted shape of the Queen, the slow reveal of the teeth, the vile grin, the ever-present dripping saliva, the hiss and the intelligence of the Queen as she understands the threat Ripley poses to her eggs. The chase through the reactor, no easy feat considering the size of this thing, and of course the final brilliantly conceived fight, the "get away from her you bitch" sequence where Ripley in the power loader fights the Queen, looked fucking amazing in '86 and it still does today. Bravo, James Cameron. Number 1, the OG ChestBurster. Come on, what else could it have been? The one scene everyone talked about after having the shit scared out of him in this film, the scene that reportedly caused people to faint, puke, or run screaming from the theater back in 1979, the scene, the payoff, midway point of the film that brings the slow burn dread up to a screeching halt and shifts the film into full-out bloody horror. The scene that, according to Ridley Scott, was the beginning of the Alien franchise, the ChestBurster. I think at this point we've all heard the legendary stories behind the shot. Yes, the cast had read the script and knew some alien thing was going to pop out of John Hurt, but they didn't exactly know how, or to the point how much blood was going to come their way. When the ChestBurster thrusts out of Kane, there were capped blood chargers, unbeknownst to the cast, that exploded off in all directions, 1 3-foot geyser of blood belting Veronica Cartwright in the face, literally causing her to fall back and brain herself. The screams, the looks of horror and shock were reportedly not acting. Legend has it Yaphet Kotto simply left the set, went home, and didn't return for a couple of days. Science fiction, horror, and the jockey shorts of millions who first witnessed it would never be the same. Ridley Scott, more inspired by the raw brutality of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre than Star Wars, just absolutely fucking nailed it. The scene begins with the crew having a final meal with each other before heading back to the sleep pods. Now, I love the approach here. It's so naturalistic and real. Characters talking over each other, making jokes about the shitty food. It feels like Robert Altman could have directed the scene. And notice, once again, the faint beginnings of the heartbeat, the oral clue that some really bad shit is surely on its way, the slight turn of Ash's head, focused gaze, he has an idea what's about to unfold, then Kane's coughing. Yaphet Kotto always kills me with that
The food ain't that bad, baby.
line. It's just fantastic. Ash, the one crew member, not reacting to Kane's coughing fit. And then the writhing on the table, Parker trying to wedge a utensil into Kane's mouth to stop him from biting off his own tongue. And that god-awful pig sound from within his chest. The initial blood eruption from his chest. More writhing. Then the great bloody payoff as the baby alien rips out of Kane's chest. And it looks pretty fucking brilliant. Rising from the bloody cavern of Kane's chest, it's both alien and embryonic. Look at those beautiful still baby teeth. It rises up further, taking in the crew, the realization that Kane was in fact raped by the alien, the horrific indignation of simply being used as a host dawns on us all. It gives a little screech, then exits stage left. Much of this done in one take because Scott knew it would take a good week to clean the blood off the set, so he ended up using 5 cameras at once to give him the best chance of capturing what he needed. For the directors, including Spielberg, who were offered this before producers turned to Ridley Scott, this was the type of scene that made them pass. They had no idea how to carry it off, but Scott, with thousands of commercials under his belt, did, and man, what an absolutely singularly iconic moment it was. As Ridley Scott suggested, if you're at all into the Alien series, this wasn't just the birth of the Xenomorph, but this was about the birth of the entire franchise. So hey, what do you think? Disagree with any of the rankings on my list? Am I out of my mind? Did I leave something out? Let me know in the comments. That is all.